Hello everyone from YouTube and welcome to the channel. This is Rob Social Experiment and I'm Rob and this is my very first ever YouTube video. So thank you so much for clicking on it. I've decided to do a reaction on a new show from Netflix called I Am Not Okay With This. I believe it's been out for a week, possibly 2 weeks on Netflix, brand new show. I've noticed that it's getting some pretty decent feedback and I've watched the trailer and I'm interested in it. This is a show that's centered around high school age kids and teen angst and all those things, and believe it or not, that's a genre that I'm very familiar with. It's also a genre that's very near and dear to my heart, so I'm looking forward to it. And based on my familiarity with how these programs tend to go, and also based on what I've seen in the trailer itself, I think that we can expect to see a lot of the same old tropes that we see in most of these adolescent aged dramas. You're going to have the disenfranchised main character. You're likely to have the cheerleaders and football players that are popular that make the other kids feel shitty about themselves. You're probably going to have a love interest. It may be an unrequited love interest. It might be a love triangle. In a lot of these things, and maybe even this one, you have the absentee parent or the parent that's a complete douche, and that creates some anxiety and issues that the main character has to work with. So we'll find out. If any of that stuff's in here, I fully expect most of it to be in here, and you know what? I'm not mad at that because I love all that stuff. But one of the ways that this show takes a detour from what's normal in this genre is apparently the main character has some type of superpower. Like I've seen her levitating balls and doing things like that. So obviously that's not part of the standard script, and I'm very interested to see what that adds or how they fit it in and whether it makes it more or less interesting. I don't know. We're going to find out. It's all part of the experiment, I guess. Well, anyway, I really hope that I like the show. I've been out of pop culture for a while. I haven't watched a lot of TV or Netflix or really anything. So for my first time back into it, I really hope it's a good show and I like it. I hope you guys like this video. And if you like the video, I would like it if you like the video. Because after all, I am essentially on the internet begging for attention. So, please give me some. And also comment. I'd really like that. Apart from that, subscribe. At this point I'm well on the road to 1 subscriber, and I think that I can do that. I've set that as a goal. I think that I can convince one person on earth to make the free commitment of possibly watching another video that I produce. Like, I feel like that's within my grasp. But also, if you think about it from your perspective as viewers, there can only ever be one first subscriber, and frankly I think that would be quite a feather in someone's hat, and it could be you, and I'm pulling for you. So go ahead and get in there and hit that subscribe button. The last little piece of business is I'd like to announce that I'll be having a giveaway, $25 Amazon gift card, to sort of celebrate my very first ever attempt at putting up a video on YouTube. And if you watch at the end of the video, I'll go ahead and give you some details about how to qualify to win that grand prize. I'm not saying it's going to change your life, but who's turning down $25 or swag from Amazon? Nobody. Everybody wants that. So without talking anymore, I've realized I've talked a lot already. Let's figure out if this show's any good. Let's go. Okay. She's got dog tags and a dress, and some shit has clearly already gone down. She's covered in blood. Is that blood? Oil?
Dear diary.
Obviously there's a backstory there.
Fuck yourself.
Okay.
Hi. I'm Sydney.
Hi, Sydney.
Boring 17-year-old white girl. I'm not special, is what I'm trying to say.
I've seen the trailer. You might be special. There's the diary.
Miss Capriati made me promise to do this.
I promise you'll do this.
Miss Capriati looks like a female Cheech Marin.
I keep losing
She
my
really
temper.
does.
I don't want to,
Not
but
productive.
it just goes out. Say to me.
Think of it like you're just talking to yourself and no one will ever read it but you.
Not even the guidance.
Somebody's going to be reading that diary. I'm calling that right now.
Use my
Somebody's
phone.
reading it.
Please attempt.
And yes, during arousal, there is an increase in all sorts of things, including adrenaline and, of course, blood flow. And the blood flow, the penis expands, and this is how the Homo sapien male is able to hold an erection.
That's how we do it.
Yes.
Who the fuck is this
From
guy?
my experience, Mr. File, the holding of an erection is far more successful in the hands.
What must it like to be that confident? I have no fucking idea.
When I laid eyes on you.
She's such a badass. Normally, I don't think she'd choose me as a friend. But
Dina did
we
not.
both
She
moved
did not
here
call
around the
back
same
for it,
time.
but she does not
Of
count.
the new kids
Sorry,
in town,
Dina.
you know. So, I guess I kind of lucked out. Oh, it's me, Tina.
Right, this is Brad Lewis.
Is that like Mr. Confidence?
He's sort of sweet, you know?
I bet it is.
And then he asked me to help him, right?
I think Sydney's feeling a little bit threatened here.
Wait,
She does not want to share her best friend.
No, I told
Especially
him
with
it's
that dick.
washboard abs. And
Definitely
I really
threatened.
like him, okay?
this is. I wish you would just stop talking. What that
Oh,
smug
she gonna use her
smile on his
powers?
Stupid face.
Oh, you're gonna make his head explode. Oh,
Stop, stop.
Are you okay? Wait, what?
Just give me a minute.
oh fuck. You need to be careful with that. He does not give a fuck, okay?
Stan is kind of weird.
You okay?
Shoes. Who needs them?
People who walk outdoors, they need them.
So,
I never work out. How does it go? As soon as I go home. What about you? I'll get to it. That's it. Mom
Kids on
says
top of
you
it.
have to work hard if you're gonna succeed.
He's dropping gems on you.
Plan's
He's
always
giving you the
for
keys
me
to the
sit back
kingdom
and
right
watch
here.
you succeed. And sorry, what was the point again?
Well, I'm gonna build a suit and kick Richard Reiner's ass.
Oh, pensions.
It's got a couple holes in it. She's very nice to her little brother. I like that about Sid. Turn it off with your brain. It's like a handy thing.
I've tried sick cream and soap and all sorts of junk. Nothing helps. They're not even that fun to pop. Oh, stop!
There it is.
It's probably just puberty.
No, puberty does not help you
I don't know.
have brain power like that. Stanley's making inroads. Like they're apart, and yet they're sharing this moment. They're together.
Sometimes at night, I want to touch myself,
Been there.
but I don't.
Can't co-sign that one. She's gonna eat
Peanut butter
right
helps.
out of the. She's gonna eat right out of the fucking jar. It's like Corona peanut butter. Oh, hate it.
The later mom gets home, the more wine she drinks.
Mom, some parenting. This is
Right.
happening right in front of you. Like, let's put a stop to that.
People I love don't love me back.
Well, that's a cry for help, Mom. You need to step in here and support your daughter.
Maybe you're aiming too high.
Oof. That is not a fucking appropriate response. 100% earned that. Look, do not blow your mom's head up or make her bleed. Just leave her alone. She
She's
probably
such
still
a
loves you deep
bitch
inside.
Sometimes.
She's a
Dad would have
bitch.
understood. But he hung himself, so I guess I'm on my own. Sometimes I wonder why he did it, and why we never talk about it.
Uh-oh.
And
She's
what the
starting to
hell
work
is
herself
going
up.
on with me?
Something's gonna happen. Yeah.
Why sometimes I feel like I'm boiling inside.
Ah.
Because maybe
There it is.
I am way more fucked up than I thought.
Well, there's episode 1. I really, really liked it. It's an excellent episode. I'm going to take a little break here, gather my thoughts. I'll be right back to give you a wrap up. Well, there you have your first episode. I have to say, just as a general impression, I enjoyed it very much. I'm very much looking forward to the second episode. That was a very bite-sized episode, and the way that it ended made me feel curious and interested about what happens next. So kudos to the writers for, really hooking me in on that. And overall, I really like the show. I think it's well done. I like the characters. I think it's well written. I've taken some notes. Nothing extensive because, it's kind of hard to talk at a camera and watch a TV show and take notes, but some of the better reactors do it. So taking a cue from the legends, I'm going to try and take some notes and talk about them now. Starting with the main character, Sydney. I like Sydney a lot. I think she's an interesting character. Like I mentioned at the beginning, she would be the disenfranchised main character. She's not one of the popular kids. She doesn't have a whole lot of self-esteem. She's dealing with a lot of issues in her personal life. She's had a dad who recently committed suicide by hanging himself in the basement without explaining why, and that's going to create some baggage and a lot of emotional scar tissue for a young person at this age. So I feel for her, and I also believe her. So I'm not a critic or in any way qualified to comment, but I do believe the actress, so I guess that means she's doing a good acting job, so kudos to Sydney. For Stanley, I wrote, I don't know if you can see it, I wrote Stanley is a duck. I don't know what that means. I like Stanley. Maybe it'll come to me in a heat of passion. I wrote that. I guess I'm not feeling the passion right now, but maybe as I talk, maybe I'll figure out what I meant by that. But another character was Dina. Now, I think that Dina is a very interesting character as well. I mean, she's obviously a supporting character. She's a friend. She's a popular girl. She's a nice girl. And the thing that I liked about Dina is that she brought out like some incredible joy in Sydney. Now, there's a scene where they're like skipping down the middle of the street, and I think I commented on it when I was watching it. Sydney has like a super radiant smile on her face. I mean, she is legitimately happy. And I was interested to see that because I think it gives Sydney some depth. Like a lot of the times these main characters who have these crappy lives, they're only ever sullen. You know, they're never anything else. But with Sydney, you see that she's capable of some legitimate joy. It's just that these aren't the right circumstances to bring that out, and the only character, up to now at least, that seems to bring that out of her is Dina. So I feel like that's a very important relationship, and it's going to be an important relationship throughout the show. I have some other thoughts about that. For example, when they're in that cafe scene and the popular dickhead guy, Mr. Confidence, Mr. Jacket that I've called him, Brad, I think his name's Brad, he shows up. And, Sydney is extremely threatened by this. She sees that she's losing her best friend. She sees that her best friend might be taking like a different direction in life and it may not include her. And, this is an important person to her, so she's worried about it. But from Dina's perspective, I give Dina a lot of credit because she sort of caught on to that and she addressed it with her friend. And she's like, first of all, she said, listen, I really like him. Now, that's an interesting comment to make because what she's letting her friend know is like, this thing is happening. I really like this guy. So don't put me in a position where I have to choose between the two of you because you might not like the way that goes. So just know that I really like the guy, and basically, Sydney, you're going to have to figure out how to deal with it, and you're going to have to be a good friend to me and figure out how we can work around it. So I felt like that was she's being honest, and she's addressing the issue. But she said more than that. She said, it'll be okay. He's actually a nice guy, and maybe he is. We'll find out. And maybe we can even go out on double dates. Because a lot of times, or in other movies or shows that I've seen, what happens when one of these friends hooks up with the popular people, they start going off in their own direction and doing the stuff the popular kids do, going to parties and all that stuff. And that doesn't include the outcast friend. And so you kind of lose a friend to this other world. But that doesn't seem to be the way Dina's going about this. I mean, she's doing the opposite. She said, hey, maybe we can go out on a double date. So what it seems like might happen in the show is Dina, who appears to be an actual good friend, who has some empathy and really cares about her friend, is going to try and bring Sydney into this world of popular kids. And there might be like some fit problems, and that might be part of the drama and the interest in the show to come. At least that's what it's looking like to me at the moment. I could be 100% wrong about any of that. But I did like the character of Dina. I also sense that there's a lot to that relationship. Like, Sydney's got some complicated feelings and issues with Dina. Like, she thinks Dina's too good for her. Like, she's a popular girl. Why is she even friends with me? It's just timing. We both moved here at the same time. So she's got a little bit of an inferiority complex. She's putting Dina up on a bit of a pedestal. I think that she's got a lot of complicated emotional entanglements with Dina. So I think that relationship is going to be interesting or have a lot to do with how the series unfolds in the future. But I dropped my notes. The mom. I'm not a super fan of the mom, but I'm not ready to 100% conclude that she's a dick. I believe in due process, and I think that she needs a chance. And I'll say that for a couple of reasons. Now, obviously, the mom, she didn't come off super great in this episode. She had some low points. One of the things that we see that's happening is that she's not around a lot. And as a result, Sydney is being called upon to engage and take on the responsibility of an adult. Like, make sure your brother eats, make sure your brother does his homework, all that stuff. That's not really anything any teenager should have to do. But in this case, she's being required to do that by her mom. And that's always like an unfair thing, and teenagers don't want to do it, and they rebel against that kind of thing. But to credit the mom, like in a lot of shows and movies, when you have these absentee parents, it's because the mom is out running around dating a bunch of different dudes and getting drunk, or the mom spends all the money that she gets from welfare or social security or whatever on drugs, or she's a cokehead, or she has these issues, and because of selfish behavior or destructive behavior, she's not a good parent, and then the teenager has to pick up the slack. I mean, that's not what's happening here. The mom, these people are poor. I mean, Sydney even said so. But the mom is out there picking up extra shifts, working a hard job that she doesn't like. She's picking up extra shifts so that she can provide for her kids. And the kids are living in the house, and they have a roof, and they have clothes, and they have, pads of paper to draw on, and they're getting fed. So she's doing what she can do. So I'm not going to indict her for that. It's just bad circumstances that Sydney's in. But the mom is doing what she has to do as a parent. So she gets some points for that. And then the last thing about the mom is the dad committed suicide. Now that happened to the mom also. This show is requiring us to accept that Sydney is a damaged character because her dad committed suicide, and we're fully prepared to accept that. Well, if we're prepared to accept that on behalf of Sydney, we have to recognize that the mom went through that too, and it would be just as hard, if not more difficult, for a spouse to deal with something like that happening, because not only does it happen, but now all the responsibility of the family maintenance falls upon you. So I'm cutting the mom a break. She might be a complete dick, but I'm not ready to put the stamp on it just yet, for all the reasons that I just mentioned. The diary. I want to talk about the diary. I think the diary is going to be an important thing here. I mean, they named the episode Diary, and they showed the diary physically several times. And then the guidance counselor, I forget her name, but Cheech Marin, basically said, write whatever you want in there. No one's ever going to read it. So I feel like someone's going to read it. The diary is going to prove to be a pivotal element in the plot later on. I could be off base. That's just what I think. The other reason they could be sort of highlighting the diary is because it's by means of the diary that we get a view into Sydney's inner thoughts. Like, dear diary, I'm not very special. Well, now you know how she feels about herself, and you know that from her articulating her diary entries. But they do the inner monologue separate from the diary, and sometimes I'm not always like super a fan of it. Like, for example, when she was in the diner and dickhead Brad comes in, she clearly hates the guy. She had like this death grin on her face, like she was sitting on attack but trying to act pleasant. It's obvious she hates the guy, and we understand. I mean, we hate the guy, so you don't need to explain that to us. But her inner dialogue is like, I can't stand this guy, or something to that effect. We don't need that. Like, that doesn't add any insight. We're already there. You don't need to explain that to me. For me, when this inner dialogue is sort of effective or interesting, it's when her outside appearance is displaying one thing, but inside she might be feeling something else. She might be in a situation where she has to act calm and happy, but on the inside she's dying for whatever reasons. And if they let you in at that moment, then you see, oh, okay, she's acting this way but feeling another. That's a valuable contribution. But when we all know that she can't stand the guy because he's basically running off with her best friend, we don't need her to explain that to us. We got that. Like, we're on that level. So I felt like the inner dialogue was a little bit overused, but overall I enjoy it. I enjoy the insight it gives us into how she's feeling at any given moment. Stanley is a duck. Okay, I got it. I got it. I like Stanley a lot. I think he's a super interesting character. I think that he's in his own lane. They've created somebody who's unique but believable. I think the guy sells it. I totally believe that there could be a kid like that. He's an interesting kid. He's a very retro kind of kid. But it seems kind of obvious to me that he's interested in Sydney, like, romantically. He's been her neighbor for 2 years. They've never talked. But when he rolled up on her today in this episode, he had a very clear agenda. He was going to tell her about Blood Witch, and he was going to invite her to his place. He was going to make his move. So that was obviously a very contemplated maneuver. He's out there trying to make something happen. Now, a lot of times when you have love interest between, main characters, it's always that cat and mouse game where one guy has feelings and he's about to say something but he doesn't, and the other person wishes that he said something but he didn't, so maybe he doesn't like it, and they're gonna kiss, but there's an explosion in the background, so they don't. And that whole thing where they drag that out, like, I don't see that happening here. Because Stanley is being aggressive with it. Like, he's making moves. Like, he's asking her to come over. He's sending her the music. He's pushing the agenda. So I think that is going to make the romantic angle between them come to a head. And I'm getting the sense that what might happen here is he's going to get rejected. So rather than it happening quickly, he's going to get rejected. And then he sort of becomes that side character who's got the romantic wish but is being relegated into a sidekick. And when I wrote Stanley as Duck, it's because of the Duck Man, who's a character from, I think it's Pretty in Pink, and that was basically who he was. Like, he loved the main character, but to her he was just like a faithful sidekick. Like, she leaned on him and she wanted him there and she needed the support, but as far as romance, that wasn't going to happen. So makes him a bit of a tragic character. I really like Stanley, but I feel like he might fall into that Duckman sort of character. What else is here? Okay, her power. Her power, obviously she doesn't know how to control it. And I think it's also sort of obvious that it's anxiety based. Like, it's based on emotions. The time that we've seen her, we've seen it manifest itself, has been times where she's felt like she's been emotionally upset. The first time was with Captain Charming guy, where, like, he was irritating her by hitting on her friend and kissing her and calling her babe and all that crap, and she gave him that nosebleed. Then obviously when her mom made the and she was annoyed by the drip. And the annoyance, I mean, she was dealing with her new zits, and the annoyance became too much for her, and, boom, it came out. And then the last time, obviously, they showed a montage of all the stuff that irritates her. Her mom's comment, Brad's stuff. I think she even thought about the drip or whatever, and then boom, the wall breaks. So I think that something that might happen here is, because she doesn't have a grasp on her power, she doesn't understand it, she's not even acknowledging it fully at this point. And because it comes out when she's emotional, I feel like it's a dangerous thing. Like, something really screwed up could happen. Like, when her mom was hassling her, I was, like, scared that the mom was going to have a nosebleed, or, like, her head was going to explode or something like that. And I feel like that's going to happen at some point in this episode. And if you think about it, they're almost throwing it in our faces. The very first scene, she's, like, covered in gore or blood or dirt, mud, oil. Obviously, some crazy stuff has gone down, and I think it's also kind of obvious that would probably be the result of something that she did by accident with her powers. So I'm kind of on the lookout for that. I'm kind of thinking about that. One last thing. I have a question. When is this show set? Like, what is the time period here? Like, I think that it's supposed to be modern times, but the show is not very clear about that. Like, there's none of the music that they play is anything that's on the radio now. I don't think I remember seeing a car, so that I can figure out from the cars, whether or not this is modern. And then, if you think about it, like, these are teenagers. Nobody had a cell phone. Nobody had a cell phone. Like, not even the popular quarterback or Mr. Football guy. Like, that guy. He didn't have a cell phone. None of these teenagers had a cell phone. So is it modern times or isn't it? You know, Stanley, he's kind of like a retro guy. And so he's got all that old school equipment and he's wearing an old timey digital watch. I think that I remember when she was talking to her counselor, the counselor, she's saying, well, can't I just do all this in my phone? So they have phones, but then why aren't these kids taking selfies or posting on Instagram or sending each other texts? I mean, that's just the way the world is, and we're all doing it. So they're not putting it in the show, so I feel like they're being vague or manipulative about when this takes place. And they're also relying on Stanley to bring in some of this nostalgia for some cheap points, but it doesn't matter to me because I like it. So those are the thoughts that I have written down on my tiny square of paper. I feel like I've already been talking for a long time anyway. And as far as that goes, I mean, is this what you guys like? Do you like this much discussion? Is it dragging on too long? Is it making the video boring? I don't know. Well, folks, it's time for me to talk about that $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. Sorry about this weird voiceover thing that I'm doing now, but like I said, I'm new to YouTube, and I screwed up the first video and forgot to mention the giveaway at the end, and so now this is what I've come up with as a solution. Before I talk about it, though, I wanted to give you a bit of background. I'm a huge Game of Thrones fan, and it's because of that show that I actually started watching reactions in the first place. And some of my favorite reactors to Game of Thrones, and there were many, but these are my particular favorites, were Jimmy Macrum, Nikki and Steve React, and Hunter Boyle. So if you've never seen their channels or their reactions, you should check them out. They're amazing people. They provided me a ton of entertainment, and they're fun to hang out with. But they're also a clue, because in this video somewhere, I've stolen the signature move of one of these favorite reactors of mine. So if you can tell me what it is that I did and timestamp in the video where I do it, and also if you subscribe, let me know in the comments and you will be the winner of that giveaway, and I will make sure that you get the card in your hands. Thanks so much for playing, and good luck with that. Please like this video, please give me comments, and let me know how this all went. Like I've said several times, this is an experiment. I'm trying to get the formula right. Let me know what you think about the video, and if there are other things you want to react to, let me know about that too. I'm definitely going to be finishing this show. I'll be looking for another show to start on, and I also don't feel like I want to limit myself to TV shows, maybe random shorter videos on the internet. I don't know. But if you have any suggestions, let me know what they are. I'll be sure to take them into consideration. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.